You're tuning in to the Careering with Cameron podcast, your safe place for asking all the dumb questions about finding a job. Hey everybody, it's Kevin Cameron, and welcome to episode 16. I'm going to cover something that we covered a little bit on a higher level, which is the cover letter. And today we're going to talk about the cover letter in a deeper fashion because there were a lot of questions that came back on that. People wondering what to put in there, how do you build it, can you use AI, all those fun things. And so we're going to cover that in a way that really maps out your process and how to build a strong cover letter, and also some misnomers as well. So we're going to get into that right now. Now, first, I want to cover the fact that this is really built for someone who is either looking for an internship or somebody who is graduating from college or high school and looking at finding their first job. This is probably not going to be all that great for somebody who's in graduate school. We will do a second episode, so episode 17 will be on cover letters for those folks who are either graduating from a graduate program or postdoc or whatever it may be, but that's a different ball of wax because the resume is different and some of the pieces are different for that too. So we will cover that in a different podcast altogether. This is really set aside for our undergrads in terms of finding that internship and also finding that first position. So a couple things you should know. One, I started off in staffing a lot of years ago. We were feeding a stone tablet through a fax machine. I'm just kidding. It wasn't actually a stone tablet, but it was a fax machine. And we had to wait for a confirmation letter. With that, sending a cover letter with a resume did not always work. So it went away for a bit around that time. Then we had email, and the email would be including a short paragraph on the person we were trying to place, but it wasn't like we were sending full-blown cover letters. Executive search side, you had a summary, and ideally the candidate was submitting a cover letter as well. Many times that cover letter is used as a writing sample. They want to know that you communicate well, and nowadays they want to know that you're not reliant 100% on AI to make your point or communicate. Keep that in mind. So if you're using AI only for your cover letter, you want to make sure that you are blending in your personality and you're screening it. And at this point, if you're in college, you should be able to understand what an AI written document looks like versus not an AI written document, and make sure that it looks like you. So that's the first piece. People read cover letters now. 45% of employers consider the absence of a cover letter a deal breaker. So 45%. So let's say that maybe, 20% of the resumes you're going to put out are going to turn into ideally a interview, and that would be non-networked, I'll call it, resumes. You want to make sure you're including a cover letter, especially if you're trying to get started. People want an idea of where you want to go, what you want to do. The number one question you probably hear in every social environment that is not school-based is, what do you think you want to do when you graduate? What do you think you want to do for an internship? The cover letter is going to answer that question for them, and they want to see it in writing so that they know you're not just giving them what they want to hear. The next piece is the cover letter really should not be a full recap of your resume. It is not a summary of your resume. The cover letter should be something that shows that you are interested in the employer and that you can help them solve the challenges that maybe they face. Well, how do you figure out what those challenges are? So you research the organization. If you go on to really any search platform and start doing some research on the organization, utilize LinkedIn. There's a lot of different venues that you can go down to find information. Certainly in college, you probably know more than I do in terms of different places you can go to find information. But my point is, you want to know more about the company than simply to say, I am aware of your organization because somebody that I know has a job there, or a friend has a job there, or my parents work there. Those are all valid things to include, but they want to know what you can do to help them or why you're interested in them. Okay. So that's the very kind of crux of the cover letter. The research piece, you need to analyze any job ad that's out there that they have out. So if they're posting a position for an internship, review the posting for the internship. Understand what the keywords are in the job description, things that repeat, or possibly a lot of them will put in things like critical experience, required experience. That's driving at a point that they have a pain around, and they're looking for somebody who can help them with that specific experience. So make sure that you're targeting that in your cover letter. Look at the required skills and talk via cover letter about experience you have working with those skills. It may only be a project that you worked on. That's fine. They're not expecting you to walk in day one and be CEO. What they're expecting is that you paid attention to their job description and you can share with them why you're interested and how you can help them. So the next piece is something that I do with people who are in search mode. I call it a T account because at one point, I believe it or not, was an accountant. But what I want you to do is create essentially a cross on a piece of paper. And on the left side of that cross, I want you to list the needs that they have. Required skills, this person will be involved in, this role is focused on, things like that. Those are the needs that they have. On the right-hand side, you want to be able to match your kind of stories to those needs. So that gets you started with your cover letter from an outline perspective. It has things in there that will cover all of their pain points, all of their required skills with a matching story that you have experience with. And then we want to also find a name. Please don't send a cover letter to whom it may concern. That's not something we can get away with anymore because we have way too much access to research vehicles to find information. So when you see an opportunity that's posted, one of your top 3 goals after identifying the pain point and making sure that you align or that you have interest in aligning to it is to figure out who is this person we're going to report to. And at least getting close, right? So that creates the work. That's where things get more challenging. That's the piece, frankly, that people don't do. Regardless of what point they're at in their career, they say, I'm just going to apply and I'm going to hope that it works out. And they're very frustrated a few months later when their process is slower than they thought it would be. So make sure that you are finding the person that this job reports to or somebody at least in that department. The absolute worst case scenario, minimal that I would take would be to try to find somebody who's there and ask who they can refer you to that would be responsible for this role. In most cases, people who work there will tell you as an intern who the job is reporting to. It's exciting. It's fun. You're there for a limited amount of time. It's not like it's a full-time job that they're putting you in front of. The full-time piece is a little bit more challenging, but still, you should be able to find some people who can help you, whether it is career services, whether it's alumni that you know from your high school, or from college or university. Those are places where you can find information and people will help you. They want to help you at that point. Also be specific about what you're looking for when you're asking for that help and make sure it's super, super easy for them to respond to you. Make sure that that's the easiest part of the ask. Okay. The second piece really is going to come down to what do we talk about here, right? So we have an idea of the research that we need to do. Now we're talking about what's the anatomy of what we need to cover. So the first paragraph, why should they pick you? So introduce yourself and the role that you're interested in. Mention a specific detail that you admire about the company or recent news item to show that you're not just sending a generic template. Make it something exciting, especially if it's something that this hiring manager was involved in. So a little pro tip here, if you go on LinkedIn and find that hiring manager, which I know you will, make sure that when you do that, you also look at things they've posted on LinkedIn, because if they've posted something recently that's exciting, I would absolutely highlight the fact that you saw this news. You don't have to say on their profile, but you saw this news and you're excited about it, want us to learn more, and reach out. Fun fact, all leaders love talking about things they've accomplished, and even more so, things they're excited about that they've accomplished. So if you hit them with that, that's a very easy conversation. And if they happen to have either gone to the same school or came from the same town or anything like that, high schools even, that's another great connection point, right? So specific detail about the organization, why you admire them, something newsworthy that's out there that's positive that you want to hear more about. That's a piece that will separate you and make you different from everybody else. The next piece is now you need to give them some evidence on like why you? Why should they pick you? Instead of listing skills, tell a mini story. So you could use things as president, whatever club, I faced this problem, I took this action, and I achieved this result. That's a great way of showing them that you are also capable of quantifying results and success. And believe it or not, that's a piece where people fall down quite a bit because they feel like, well, can I really quantify that? Did I do it all myself? I can guarantee you that if you were president of a club, you did not do it all yourself, but you led the operation. So take that component and use it for your cover letter. It's okay to do that. The next piece is really building that connection. So how do your degree coursework directly help them in terms of solving their current needs? So one of the pieces that oftentimes working with students I find they overlook is when you have a degree or coursework in a specific area that you're applying to, chances are the technology that you have been around and or utilized is much stronger than the technology that you may see in industry. In many cases, there are cases where that's not true, but in many cases, you're going to know more about it from a teaching perspective and from an industry perspective than possibly somebody who's working in the organization, especially if you have been interviewing in the industry and or this is not your first internship. So don't discount the fact that if you just worked for a competitor, you're going to be even more interesting to that company. So use that as well. The next piece really is the call to action. So reiterate enthusiasm and stay on the path of you look forward to hear from them and you look forward specifically to an interview. You have to be upbeat, not over the top, but you have to be upbeat and positive about this. Okay. I know that at times we get to the point with creating that cover letter and the ask at the end, which is, I'd like an interview. And that gets kind of scary because now we're asking for the thing that's terrifying, which is the interview. But really, you're just going to hear about what they do all day long and how they do it. And if they make a decision to hire you, that's fantastic. You may make a decision that it's not the right fit for you. So go find out how they make lunch. That's all it is. Okay. Some pitfalls to avoid. Like I said, please do not use to whom it may concern. You can use dear hiring manager, worst case scenario, if you really can't find anything. But I want you to really work at finding a person that you can direct this letter to. Make sure that you don't fall into the I/we trap, okay? Cover letter focuses on what you can do for them, not just why the internship would be good for you. So this is one of those topics that we get into a little bit with networking as well. So this needs to be something where this is how I can help you. And yes, I'm interested in an internship, but lead with help. And you absolutely can help them. So lead with help. The last piece of this is format matters. You have to keep the cover letter to one page. It cannot be more than one page. If it's more than one page, you better be relocating around the world and have multiple degrees and running for political office at the same time. Okay. So no more than one page. Absolutely not. Make sure that the header on your cover letter matches your resume so the branding remains the same. It should look like it's a set. So make sure that it's all together. Also make sure that it's a readable font. So those are all the pieces to keep in mind when we're talking about creating a cover letter for either your first internship or your first position. A few things to keep in mind. Another question that I get quite a bit is, should I have a headshot on my cover letter? Probably not, unless we are talking about you specifically driving at a sales position. If it's a sales position, then headshots are going to be part of the deal. So, and that's by choice still, but I would say outside of sales, headshots really are not a thing. Probably not a cover letter, definitely not on a resume. If you are getting into something from a sales perspective, which again is different, sales and marketing, a little bit different because thinking about that, they're hiring somebody and they want to know how you're going to present in terms of your ability to develop relationships and market. Some of that will be, believe it or not, your ability to demonstrate a design in terms of cover letter or resume that they can see. Now, I would be careful how fast you include that headshot in a sales or marketing resume or cover letter because there are going to be organizations that are not comfortable with the fact that it's included. They would prefer that it's not. From a diversity perspective, they would prefer that all candidates obviously are not sharing a headshot because they don't want to feel that there may even be a incidental, unknown slant in terms of a different direction or one specific direction from a diversity level. So the headshot and dangerous place to play. There is a place for it in terms of marketing, and typically that's with like a professional summary for sales people. Outside of that, I would say no. In terms of interns, absolutely not. There's no reason for it to be on the resume or cover letter for an internship. In terms of first job, probably not. Later on in the work career, there's a possibility that it may be a spot where you need to include it. But that's really kind of digging into the details of what is this cover letter thing all about? How do I build it? And importantly, I'm going to try to cover a few things in the next couple episodes. The next one definitely is going to be covering more of your postdoc and also graduate students who are looking for some help with the cover letter. But we will also dig back into the resume for interns and also looking at things in terms of whether you're looking for a role where you want to go into industry or academia will be a little bit down the road. So I know I have some folks that are probably listening who are possibly looking at academia versus industry. We will have a separate episode just for that. But beyond there, this should give you a pretty good frame for how to build your cover letter. And it also is a nice, gentle reminder that the application process for internships is not about going online, finding a posting, and submitting your resume. It's also not really about using a AI platform to submit your resume to as many employers as you possibly can because you don't get a whole lot of traction with that. And I know that there is a whole generation where it was relatively simple to find a position or at least to get interviews because you could submit a resume to an Indeed or a Career Builder or Monster or LinkedIn or Dice or wherever it may be. Handshake is another one. Handshake's more current though. And you would submit and you would hear back. And that is just not the case now. It's not the case, not because they want to make life hard. It's not the case because there are way too many people applying to the same positions. Many of them should not be applying to those positions because they're not reading the description, which is why we highlighted up above, making sure that you're doing your homework and creating that T account and matching up yourself to that position. And then also, they really want to feel like they know the person. So when they're considering you for a job, they want to feel like there's a common connection between you and them, the very same way that if you went onto Amazon to buy a product, you would look at the reviews. Those people who connect you, they're your reviews. They decide if you're at 2 stars or 5. It really depends on how much work you want to put in to find more people to get to 5 stars. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give us 5 stars. Please make sure you're sharing it with others who may need some help in terms of creating that cover letter. I'm hoping this was as specific as possible to cover your cover letter questions, but absolutely feel free to reach out to me either through our site. There is a contact button, or through LinkedIn, message me and I'm happy to answer questions for you, and or we can work one-to-one together in terms of your internship interest and or first job interest. But hopefully this helps. Again, thank you so much for listening. We'll speak to you next time. Stay in the loop at careeringwithcameron.com/talent connect, or check out our website, www.talent-connect.net.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.